Hi, third grade, I'm back. I'm going to go over some of our lessons in Journeys, so I'd like you to have your Journeys hardcover book and workbook ready. And we're going to start in the workbook on page 70. At the top it says, short, choppy sentences can be combined to make your writing smoother. Combine two sentences by moving an adverb. Remember, an adverb tells how, when, or where the action happened. So they gave us some examples. We've got short sentences. Sam walked up the hill. The hill was nearby. If you look across, they can make a longer, smoother sentence by saying, Sam walked up the nearby hill. Let's try the second one. They wait to skate. They wait eagerly. How do they wait? They wait eagerly to skate. Now let's go to number 1. We rode our sleds. We rode today. When did we ride our sleds? Circle the word today. That's the adverb that tells when we rode our sleds. Write the sentence, we rode our sleds today, period. I'm getting emails, I'm going to turn this off. Number 2, I screamed as I flew downhill. I screamed loudly. How did I scream? Circle the word loudly. I screamed loudly as I flew downhill. Write that sentence. I screamed loudly as I flew downhill. Remember to capitalize the first word and punctuate the end of the sentence. I want to see nicely written sentences. You may print or use cursive. Number 3, I ran back up the hill. I ran eagerly. How did I run? Circle the adverb, eagerly. Now write the sentence. And there's going to be 2 ways we could write this. We could write it, I eagerly ran back up the hill, or I ran eagerly back up the hill. You choose which one you like and write it. Be sure to punctuate and capitalize. The last sentence, I reached the top. I reached it first. When did I reach it? Circle the adverb first. I reached the top first. Now I want you to go back in your workbook to page 63. And usually we do this together or with a partner. So we're going to just read through these questions and see if we can find some good answers to write. On the top of the page, this is from the story or the reading that we did, Life on the Ice, a travel guide to the poles. Gather information about the North and South poles. Use the information to create a travel guide. So it says at the top, read pages 170 and 171. Where are the poles? What are they like? So we have 2 things to answer. Where are the poles? They said we could find that information on page 170 and 171. I'm going to grab my book and I'm going to read a little bit. The top and the bottom of our planet are covered with ice. The top, the Arctic, is home to the North Pole. It can be so cold that a cup of water thrown in the air will explode into a cloud of ice particles. The South Pole is at the bottom of our planet on the continent of Antarctica. This region is even colder than the Arctic, sometimes plunging to minus 125 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, parts of the ocean surrounding Antarctica freeze over, doubling its size. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, windiest place on Earth. It is so isolated that no human had even seen this continent until 200 years ago. So when I go back, it says, where are the poles? It seems to me that the North Pole is at the top of the Earth, and the South Pole is at the bottom of planet Earth. But then there's a second part to answer. It says, what are they like? I'm going to read again, and you write down what you think you should include. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, windiest place on Earth. It is so cold that a cup of water thrown in the air will explode into a cloud of ice particles. So I would write, it is very, and then you fill in the rest. Go back in your book and look again if you need a little more help. Number 2, what is traveling to the poles like? Well, it says we can find that answer on page 174 and 175. Traveling to the poles. I don't think anyone can drive their car there, so let's find out, how do they travel to the poles? People fly thousands of miles to reach the poles, and when the winds kick up and blow the snow around, it's hard to know where the sky ends and the land begins. Pilots say that it is like flying inside a ping pong ball. Many of the instruments normally used to guide planes won't work here. In fact, navigators or pilots flying to the poles are the only ones left in the United States Air Force who still help map their route with the stars. Remember, they follow the stars? This is some of the hardest flying there is. Planes do not land in these wintry worlds by rolling down concrete runways. They use skis instead, and they slide like giant sleds until they stop. Gliding along, the skis get so hot that they melt the snow they're resting on. Pilots must pull them up when the planes stop. Otherwise, the wet snow would refreeze on the skis, and the planes would be stuck to the ground. I'm going to go back and read that question again. What is traveling to the poles like? Well, I heard that airplanes travel to the poles, and it takes thousands of miles to get there, and that the pilots use the stars to navigate or find their way. I also learned that instead of wheels, these airplanes have skis so that they can stop on the ice. So I want you to think about what I've just said and what I've read and answer in a complete sentence. What is traveling to the poles like? And you can start by saying, people travel to the poles by airplane. These airplanes, and tell me a little bit about what they need to be like. The next question, it says to go to page 180 and 181. And that's where we see the picture of the kind of equipment and shelter they might have. The question in the workbook is, how do you need to dress at the poles? I'm going to read that caption by the picture because I think that's important. No wearing rings, earrings, or sunglasses with metal frames in the extreme cold. Metal gets so cold that it will freeze any skin that it touches. So that's what you cannot wear. Let's go to the top of the page. At the poles, people wear many layers of clothing to keep warmth in and wind out. So they layer their clothing. They wear big boots and overalls called fat boy pants. Their mittens have furry backs to wipe their noses and warm their ears. They also wear goggles. Without them, their eyes would get sunburned and temporarily blinded by the strong light bouncing off the snow. So it sounds like you need special goggles, layers of clothing, boots, mittens, gloves, and don't wear anything metal. Now we're going to go on to page 182 and 183. What are the different seasons like for people who live at the poles? And this is very interesting. We just ended our winter, and it wasn't too bad of a winter. We saw a little bit of snow and some cold, and now spring is coming and things are getting green and the leaves are starting to bud out, and pretty soon summer will be here. That's very different from what it's like at the poles. So let's go ahead and read to answer. What are the different seasons like for people who live at the poles? In summer, many people live at the science stations in the Arctic and Antarctica. They have a gym and videos and spend their spare time skiing on the icy runways, but mostly they work hard, getting as much done as possible while the weather is warm enough for planes to fly in and out. So they go skiing in the summer. So it must really be cold. A few of them stay all winter long. Scientists say that summer's constant daylight tricks your body into wanting to keep going without rest. So not only is it cold, but it's light all the time. But in winter's endless darkness, you feel tired much of the time. So then their winters, they're dark all the time. Summers are light all the time, winters are dark all the time, but it sounds like it's cold, whatever the season is. One scientist even studies the people who winter over in the South Pole. He wants to know what kind of person works well in such a small, isolated group. Someday his findings may help pick the people to live in a colony on Mars. Now we're going to find out about spring. In spring in Antarctica, the temperature finally climbs to 10 degrees above. Boys and girls, it's been in the 50s, 60s, even up to 70 lately here. 10 degrees is pretty cold. It's below freezing. It's warm enough for planes to fly in again. The scientists are eager to get on board and return to the colors and smells of the green world. So, sounds like spring is pretty chilly too. All right, I think that's about it for now. I'm going to let you work on those pages, and in a little while I'm going to come back and read the social studies section that has all the information so that you can be filling in some of those flip book pages, and I'll talk more about that in a little while. Bye.